And welcome back, Summoners, once again. This time we are now on Game 3 in this Best of 5 series for the semifinals in determining who will go to the finals at Rampage 2017 between MSK League of Legends versus Imperium Pro Team. We're gonna be your shoutcasters for this game. I am Shinbu with the 1, 4, and my partner, Coach Arctic at your service. Ladies and gentlemen, so what happened on that Game 2? 1-1!
Wow, I mean, again, it's really interesting because we've been pegging how MSK, there's been so much improvement, but looking into Game 2, they committed all these critical errors that's really IPT capitalized on. But overall, of course, looking at the matchup, we're now even 1-1. So still not at match point just yet. Still very equal playing field for both sides.
This is actually what will establish that match point, because anytime from now, you'll be seeing any of these two teams getting that score 2-2, against 1, and we'll definitely have our 4th game. That's one thing for sure. Okay, in this very exciting matchup, because observing that Game 1 to Game 2, as you mentioned, entering Game 2, it would be very disheartening for IPT to lose that second game, right? It would be a very big loss against them. It would establish a very clear footing for MSK to take that Game 3. But if it's 1-1, it's like a reset of everything. It's like a reset of everything, and it feels like IPT has a good adjustment done when it comes to the attrition battle that MSK is bringing into the table, especially with the early game pressure, and of course, transitioning into a late game force push compositions. Basing that on Game 1, I actually tried that kind of in this Game 2 as well. But we'll see what would be the new additions for this two team. Caitlyn actually managed to bypass the first rotations of the bans here in the drafting phase. Ladies and gentlemen, so Coach Arctic, what are your thoughts?
Wow, I mean, looking at the bans thus far, still very much standard here. What is quite interesting though is the Zac has been open for this game, so whether or not MSK will be picking him up, because so far for IPT they've already taken this Elise, so clearly no Zac takes from them whatsoever. We'll just have to see if MSK themselves, but looks like instead we're going to be seeing the Gragas, so Zac not going to be an optimal or priority pick in a way.
Yes, MSK has been prioritizing in banning first the Caitlyn, denying that against Hate. At least kind of punishing Hate because of his relatively small champion pool. But that is actually a story of the past, in the ADC position, especially now that he got Saya in his pockets as well. But rather, the adjustment by MSK will be removing the Corki against the hands of Light. We've known the damage dealt by Light, in that game too, right? Even in that Game 1, he was actually the one leading IPT's damage table for this one. Now completing all the bans here, and so far the rotations also on the drafts. What are your thoughts?
Wow, I mean, looking at how IPT has been drafting this thus far, very much similar to their game plan during Game 2. I mean, why fix something that isn't technically broken? And looking at the draft that MSK has far, looks like they're going to stick with what we know with this Tomkin. So still, there's going to be that factor of protection. But what I do like as an adjustment is that instead of going for the Syndra, a little bit more on the immobile side, going to be going for the Ahri. So this does kind of solve the problem that they had earlier, wherein Exosen himself couldn't really go onto the priority carries because of the heavy meat shields in the front line in the form of the Nautilus and the Braum earlier.
The interesting part here is that Ahri actually has kind of punching buffs, really. Not in this match, but in the previous match. His Foxfire, not mention his the Spirit Rush.
Yes.
All those homing targets, all those homing spells where you don't necessarily need to target someone has been reduced in terms of scaling and of course the damage dealt to champions. And what we want to consider here is that the last pick here as well of IPT, I mean the last pick was given to IPT, and the supposed answer for the Ahri would be a Vladimir, of course. On this one, so I'm not so sure. It feels like maybe minus the Kalista pick, it seems like there's a nice footing here by IPT against the composition of MSK, with MSK running a very interesting draft as well in the top lane. Nar, huh?
And looking, of course, at our matchup right here, it is, of course, going to be the battle of the junglers, which have been really dictating, in a way, the flow of how lanings will go. James versus Kulut, but still looking at the statistics, though, James quite up in outclasses Kulit in all statistics.
Yes, those are actually big, big leads there, even in terms of statistics, the 4.0 compared to the 3.1. Also in the gold per minute, 805 compared to 336. That's a big gap, ladies and gentlemen. Not to mention 8.4 compared to the 3.5 CS per minute here. I would say James is very contributing as well. On that Game 2, I'm not so sure, but on Game 1, definitely with that Elise prioritizing damage first. Not to mention his impact Actually, I feel Ham is the most during the mid game, opening up the mid game. And there's the given that, junglers would have a clear presence in the early game. The interesting part here is that it depends really. It's a hit or miss scenario every early game for junglers. Like for example, Kulit has been doing his best to actually influence the lanes on the game 1 using the Zac, right? But of course, he was not allowed to do so. There's an understandable nerf on Zac anyway, making his elastic slingshots more telegraph, for example. So there we go, we got a loading screen, ladies and gentlemen, once again here in the Game 3 for the best of 5 series of MSK versus Imperium Pro Team. Status right now is there's no match point. This is a Game 3 without any match points. It's 1-1 on the table in the scoreboard, and yeah, it's still anybody's game, even if you base it on the playstyles.
Indeed. Still, regardless, I mean, we'll just have to see, because this is the trickier part here. Clearly, Imperium Pro Team not showing any signs that they're going to be disheartened in a way, because again, Celestial is such a huge asset to MSK. Again, 2 birds with 1 stone. Like I've been saying, not only is a great player, but brings so much information, so much strategy to MSK's stable here that clearly across the board really improved their overall play. But still, Imperium Pro Team, regardless, during Game 2, showing that they have a lot of fight in them. Clearly not going to give up just yet.
There's some buffs on Gnar. Yes. I'm still just curious. How is Gnar positioned in the top lane? I mean, I'm not questioning, putting Gnar in the top lane. I'm questioning, like, how is Gnar doing in the top lane, really? That is the big question right now. Don't see that much Gnar really in the top lane. What's interesting is the 7.14, there's actually a punishing nerf on Fiora. And I'm back again with the Fiora discussion on this one. So that would actually shake the roster available, or even the pool that is available in the top lane, just my opinion.
Yeah, because if you're going to look at it, both top laners are very efficient Fiora players.
Very true, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm curious, how does Gnar fit? So ladies and gentlemen, let's go into the game. Game 3, gents. Here we go. Welcome to the Summoner's Rift. Once again, this is the 3rd battle between the 2 teams, MSK League of Legends versus Imperium Pro Team, on their road to the finals of the Garena Pro Gaming Series 2017 Summer Split. Who will be facing Team Manila Eagles?
Yeah,
ladies and gents.
So again, looking at the 2 compositions here, I like how IPT, because it definitely worked for them. Again, the disruptive tools coming in from both the Braum and the Nautilus was very crucial in a sense, because it didn't allow the carries from MSK to deal the optimal damage that they can. Not to mention, again, what I like about is the disruption away of how TG himself might get disrupted from going for those very crucial devours to save teammates. So we'll just have to see again. Looks like we'll be heading into the game.
Well, also going back on that discussion with Zenshos and maybe Celestial and even Mirmos running around. Sometimes Hate is one of the ADCs that is overlooked, really. But one thing I love about Hate is that Hate has his way of being able to scale into the late game. Despite having or despite rolling this very risky ADCs, like for example you have Vayne, or even you have this Kalista actually, and it's a given. It's kind of a given that IPT should watch out that Hate would not get behind.
Indeed. So there we go. So ladies and gents, again, whoever you guys are supporting, this is going to be the hashtag MSK win or hashtag IPT win. Again, kind of reminiscent of what happened as of the previous split. 2 rivals in a way, but we'll be having to settle their dispute in the semifinals, because it is going to be Team Manila Eagles that they'll be going up against for whichever team wins heading into Rampage 2017.
Indeed. So a pretty standard start here, of course. Bottom duo aiding actually the jungler here. But the jungler started actually, on the same side of the map. Gonna be red start here. Bramble for Ham is, and of course, Sentinel for Kulit. Meaning, there's a potential early visit against this, against Kaigo actually, coming from Ham is. I'm just curious if it would be rewarding as well for MSK to gank this bottom lane, because the best time to really shut down a Kalista, same like a Vayne, is go for her inherent weakness in the early game. There's a tag.
There you
Okay.
go. A little bit of damage there on the hate right there.
Yeah, and there's a ping already on Gragas. They might have an idea, actually, if
there you
James would show himself. He is actually standing on the ward. Did not see it on the minimap, but there we go. And it's very clear for James, especially with this kind of position, staying on that side brush. So yeah.
Still, regardless, I mean, even though that doesn't result to a gank, was able to deny a little bit of CS coming in from hate there.
Yeah. Not to mention, Kulit was able to control the Referral side scuttler, and now could actually rotate for this blue buff. Let's see. He actually went for it. But James would be in range. Okay. Managed to see Kulit. Alright. So, a little bit of a standoff between these two junglers. Kulit would be popping off that Scourge Bloom, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, there will be a rotation coming in from Kulit. He might go for backstab, rather would go for Exa, knowing that he's far even up. Flash in, of course, with a cocoon. Flash out coming for Exosen. So exchange of flash for the jungler and the mid lane.
Indeed, but regardless, that's going to be a lot of pressure onto Exosen, though, until such time that he reaches level 6, wherein he has a lot more mobility. He might be a little bit more vulnerable, has to play it a little bit more safer now that that flash is down.
Not to mention that's Vladimir is facing, no?
Ah, yeah.
And the thing about Vladimir is, if pressure ka nyan, I mean, Vladimir's kit is designed to like sustain your health, not to mention free spells, you know? It's a matter of cooldown only for Vladimir. So, without this flash and without any spirit rush, Light could have a very, I would say, big advantage here in the top lane.
Oh no, though.
James will be around the vicinity here, touching Suzaku, waits for the flash, and connected the body slam. Now all you need is to get the slow coming in from Kaigu's autos, but Kulit is here, very risky to pull off a tower dive, knowing that Suzaku is holding on to that dredge line.
Indeed, Kulit going to be going for the backup within the vicinity in case things do get dirty, resulting into a dive onto Suzaku. But still, that's a very tanky element regardless, even without the tanky itemization just yet. So that's something MSK has to respect.
Indeed. So right now, actually no first blood yet. No? We're all on the 4-minute, entering the 5-minute mark of the game. Those are the early attempted rotations by our junglers. Quite shy actually, kind of leaning on the shy side. Got
very much safe and sound on Summoner's Rift so far.
One thing sure is that compared to the other games, we got a start of an Infernal here.
Oh,
Infernal Drake. Those are big buffs really waiting for these two teams.
That's going to be pretty big, you know, regardless of which side takes it. That damage amplification is going to be very substantial. But I think, in my opinion, the team that needs that Infernal Drake a little bit more is probably the MSK squad, just because of the premise wherein, like I mentioned, with IPT, MSK had problems earlier during Game 2 wherein they couldn't exert the maximum damage that they can because of the heavier frontliners that IPT has. So I feel like with the damage amplification across the board, that makes it a bit more manageable for MSK, regardless of having to deal with that same problem of Suzaku and Shadow frontlining for those carries, which MSK couldn't reach.
And IPT's decided to scale for the late game here, while MSK have very nice kits in taking mid-game team fights. Which, you know, when it comes to mid-game team fights, it's very nice to open up with an Infernal Drake, or even take the Infernal Drake during that mid-game phase. That's one. So I'm curious, we are actually seeing the mid lanes here already taking their level 6. James gets scouted there by the Sentinel by the turn. Okay, I think he was surprised, or did he tend to show himself? And it's clear information on him. He has an idea though that Kulit would be around the Grump area, and Exosen would be responding here.
Man, that's a lot of it. That's a very much prolonged vision onto James right there. But still, that does exhaust vision from the bot lane for IPT.
And they're disrupting everyone. Actually, they're waiting for the second rotation of the blue buffs here, because we are already on the 6-minute 45-second mark. The cocoon did miss, but there's the bite onto James. He was forced to flash away on the mount of DG for the Devour. There's a tag on Light. Transfusion in, but of course, no all in yet. Okay.
There we go. So, anyways, with all said and done, still very much quiet. We've been seeing a lot of attempts at getting that first one, but because of these very crucial saves, again, good response rate coming in from TG. Excellent performance on this Tom Kench thus far. So, safe and sound still. Just very much calm.
Very calm, ladies and gentlemen. Even the CS gaps here are very thin. It's only, you know, halos 200, 100 gold lang ang pinag-uusapan nating difference in terms of gold dito sa dalawang teams na to. Okay. Very even. So, we could account for the vision. Lots of deep wipes there by MSK. That's one thing I'd say. Alam nila kung nasan si ano ngayon, si Kulit. Yun yung sigurado.
Not to mention the vision coming in from the innate kit ng Kalista. It basically allows both sides to play it a little bit more safer. Kaya medyo calm talaga. Pero pinaka-initay ko dito is once these fuller on fights come, feeling ko dun magsa-start talaga mag-dictate kung sino yung makaka-pick up ng pace at makakuha ng lead.
Dami na abang. In a few minutes, lalabas na rin yung Referral. So, dalawa na yung magiging stress sa mapang to. That would be the Infernal or the Referral. Do take note na as if a game is becoming more and more slow, yung team fight na darating, mas papalaki ng papalaki. Mas nagiging explosive. Summoner spells, if you account for summoner spells, ang wala lamang doon ay si James, okay? No flash, burned when he has to jump on the TG's mouth, okay? He cannot run the risk of giving first blood din eh. Kasi by the time he give the first blood, that's actually a bonus 400 gold, which would build the component item. Eh by this time din, pabuo na rin yung mga core items dito, like tier 1 or rather primary items dito ng bawat teams. So kapag nagbigay ka ng parang 400 gold, parang mapapabuo mo sa either ng seal, you know, or maybe Bilgewater Cutlass, something like that.
Yeah, very interesting though, kasi if you're gonna look at these previous games, although probably ito talagang parang we're heading into the first 10-minute mark, pero still very much even between both sides. Unlike before, may kahit katiting man lang na advantage. Like siguro like up by a few gold, pero still very even. So
very even, man.
I'm still waiting for that moment.
Ito yung game na kasi alam nila na kung manalo ka dito, nasa isa kang sobrang advantageous position. At yun yung hinahabol nila dito. Kung i-compare mo to sa game 1 na 0-0 pa sila, okay pa eh, tapangan pa. Pero ito, this 1-1 scenario is as good as a game, you know, as a match point scenario. But of course, there is the Crimson Rush available to like amplify the effects of transfusion.
Yun yung tricky part eh. Like, you could get as much aggro as you want onto the Vladimir. But at the end of the day, yung sustain niya. So, tingnan natin.
Pero giveaway ni Shadow dito actually. Yung take nila ng Baron, they have to go all in on this one. Okay, if ever talaga may magko-commit at, Baron or rather Dragon, itong Infernal Drake, hanggang gagalawin talaga nila ito, they go all in. Teleport is not yet burned. Meganar dito. Oh, flash burn on Suzaku.
Yes.
That's one. Okay, pero wala pa rin first blood. And ang kailangan natin ni Suzaku actually dito is maging mininar si Kaigu.
Yun natin. Because of that flash down, medyo malilimitan yung creativity ni Suzaku in terms of getting fixed with the kit of the Nautilus if ever they do break out into those full-on fights na mapipilitan mag-chase yung IPT onto MSK. So, tingnan natin though, very, very low health turret for IPT though in this mid lane here.
Yeah, but cannot be denied na there's a very clear establishment of pressure here coming in from MSK. At susubukan sana itong tapatan ng IPT by sending their bottom duo into the mid lane, no?
Yeah.
Pero that is all actually predicted there by James to stop that. Okay, lots of tension building up on this river side. And take note, this is now tilting in favor of MSK in a way, in a sense na yung mid lane na pa-destroy na, pabasag na. Pero we are seeing a teleport here. Fate's call, let's see, it's time to go all in. Suzaku puts in the ultimate onto the Caitlyn. Okay, managed the dagger, but rather they're gonna be tagging the support. TG's gonna go down, and these are 4 members sent here in the bottom lane. They could take the Infernal Drake, but do take note that Exo-Sen actually destroyed the first turret of the game as well.
Yeah, regardless, still, if ever makuha ng IPT itong Infernal Drake, I'd still say, regardless of the outcome, still very much even for both sides. Although, still very crucial pa rin. Ang laking bagay na makapag-turret take ka sa mid lane because it really opens up the map for more. So, it's sure in terms of gold, or probably no, it's still very much MSK up on top here. So, finally, we're seeing a 1k deficit in favor of MSK.
Very true. But of course, take note, yung first blood nga, well, mild na lang yan. Ang tanong ay sino nakakuha ng first blood? It was Hate. It was Kalista. So let's see what would be the item spike here. Actually recalled. Managed to buy the Bilgewater Cutlass. Interestingly, hindi niya nabili yung, yung recurve bow. Okay. On this one. Pero, Still, Infernal Drake on them. Okay? So, by that time na nakompleto yung Blade of the Ruined King, that would be another free item for Kalista. Just accounting for the percentage spike nung nabibigay ng Infernal Drake.
One thing that I really want MSK to look out for is, again, kasi during Game 2, they went for this ambitious dive onto Suzaku, considering that he is a very tanky champion. So it's those misplays that MSK wants to avoid, because those small misplays that IPT really capitalizes on really allows it to sway them back in their favor. So hopefully, ang gandang start nito sa MSK, pick up the pace, continue to exert dominance on the IPT, and potentially translate it into win for Game 3.
Tingnan natin kung anong kakahinat nandito. There is gonna be the Sentinel. Okay, face checking TG, but not much info. Wala naman na din gagawin. Repurpose ang play doon. Next Drake will be a tricky one. It's a Mountain Drake. Between the two, there's actually a better call in forcing a Reef Herald compared to Mountain Drake. Actually, ang ganda talaga nung update sa Reef Herald. Naging ano siya, juicy objective.
Like, imagine the days nung bagong labas si Refero, halos hindi siya pinapansin.
Pinapansin talaga. Parang pinalaki lang siyang, well, ayun nga, parang ano lang siya pang-feel bago dumating si Baron.
Pero ngayon, like, mas substantial and easier to take.
Ang tingin, pag tinitingnan mong referral, alam mo pwede kang makadalawang torre dyan. Pwede kang maka-inhibitor early dyan. Yun yung danger sa referral ngayon.
Yeah, and we have, gaya nga nakita natin in previous games here in the PGS, nakita nga natin yung mga instances na gano'n, yung sobrang sulit ng referral. Even Rift Rivals, I remember this one instance na like outer, inner, and then inhibitor turret pa. Sobrang sulit yung referral. So, diba? We'll just have to see again if ever...
Okay, there's a Spirit Rush, face check all in. Lots of magic damage. Buti may assist pang nakuha si Kaigo doon.
Okay, I'll have to take back what I said earlier about ambitious dives onto Suzaku. But then again, it's very good timing sa MSK because if you're gonna look at the itemization from Suzaku, not quite at optimal tankiness just yet. So, ang gandang factor na kinapitalize yun ng MSK so that they could pick off a kill. And of course, not just the kill, but top turret to boot.
Saka di rin yun na-expect ni Suzaku. He was building na magic resistances. Akala di siya bibistahin ng mga magic dealer. Pero kung dalawa ba naman yun, diba? Lahat nag-connect sa kanya. All damage with the true damage of the return of the Orb of Deception, Body Slam, everything, ladies and gentlemen. Interestingly, Rip Herald that's gonna be touched there by MSK. And knowing that most of the members of MSK was brought into the top lane, IPT has the privilege to shove this bottom lane out there.
Yeah, they really want to get this trade because, again, it would be rather unfortunate. It looks like, unfortunately, they won't be able to take it down just yet because for every objective that IPT isn't able to trade off once MSK gets something, then that's a lost opportunity for IPT right there. And again, I think sinasabi ko na leads that MSK could slowly build up and capitalize on. And if they slowly wear out IPT, wherein they continue to get objectives and IPT isn't able to trade themselves, then it's going to get very tricky for Imperial Forces.
Very true, ladies and gentlemen. It's now 1-1 sa ating scoreboard. 15-minute mark. I dare say, prolonged game. Hindi siya na-accelerate just because of the conservative playstyle brought into the Reef by these two teams. Speaking of being conservative, that would, in theory, be in favor of IPT, knowing that there's, sabi nga na, pwedeng sabihin na mas direct yung damage nila. Kasi may conditions dito sa MSK. Every time they engage, they have to have the Gnar become a Mega Gnar. It's one thing.
At hindsight, now that I realize, looking at the draft of IPT, medyo reminiscent siya of what AEX drafted. I feel like the better improvement is the Nautilus football, that thought.
Yes, of course. The Fate's Call tags actually Shadow here. This might be his second death. Need to activate the thick skin dito, knowing that it's too late. There's also the ultimate gadget on the Celestial. He will be able to flash away after the ultimate mula kay Kaido, but not enough. There's the Rends to strip him to shreds. And here comes Exo Sen. Also along with the explosive cast, deleting members of IPT one by one. At tatlo agad yung nawala dito. It's still a 2v3. And Light and Gulit would be aiming to get a revenge kill. In the end, it's a 3-4-2 exchange in favor of MSK.
Wow, regardless, the fights are just really starting to get explosive. Pero still, very much MSK having that lead. Looking at the gold deficit, 3,000 now. Again, ito yung sinasabi ko, slow build-up. And looks like IPT will be halted from taking this turn. I believe, but no, they're gonna go at it because it's only James that's gonna go for the defense.
And napapansin ko, pangalawang round 2 na to, ng teleport play na siniset up ng IPT. Parang ganun yung plano, no? Talagang deep wards just so they can easily bring Suzaku in the backline. Kasi napaka-rewarding nyo eh. Unang makakaplank sa'yo would be the Nautilus at unang matatayahan nyo would be the mid lane light. Vladimir gets the bar. Sumukan ng dugo. TG gets the kill onto Light.
Oh man, 5-3 regardless. This is just MSK really starting to build up on the momentum here. Pero tingnan natin kasi gaya nga ng sinabi ko, merong mga instances kasi na medyo nagkaka-misplay si MSK, but so far they look like they have very good control of this game. Still, IPT definitely showing a lot of fight.
So,
nako.
Yeah, this is very awkward for them. Hindi pa that's the very clear threat, of course, of the side flank na mula dun sa tri-brush na yon. Exosen already has the protobelt. That's like a small spirit rush for him.
And what's tricky is that I'm actually quite surprised that IPT still insisted on trying to defend that turret right there. I felt like they just shouldn't given it up at this point kasi ang laki ng epekto.
Yan
nangyari.
Magagalaw yung yung inner bottom lane. That's the problem here. This is a Caitlyn, right?
True, but looks like IPT gonna try to go to retaliate.
Okay, but these are the attacks they are hitting right now. Unbreakable casted there by Shadow. Lux is being burned onto Suzaku. Is this gonna be rewarding? Hindi. Natayo ni Suzaku. Okay, yung trap. I thought he won't. Rather on top after the dredge line on this one. Quite awkward here for IPT. Light after the transfusion. He's gonna be pulling out. Didn't manage to go out. And instantly, two members of IPT here gets popped along with the inner bottom lane tower.
Man, Kaigu really impressive on this Snar.
Yeah.
Kasi para sa akin, one of the trickier parts of Snar is that you really have to watch out and manage your rage bar. But seeing how Kaigu has been using it, very, very efficient from Nesky, getting the crucial knockbacks into the wall onto the members of IPT. And again, just Mineski slowly building up on dominance here that IPT really needs to start responding fast as far as getting small, even kahit yung mga smaller trade-off man lang so that they could still maintain relevance going up against Mineski because the longer this game goes and the more that Mineski continues to build up, nako, Rift Herald take back.
Yeah, and this is a lead taken. Napapansin ko lang sunod-sunod yung play na nakuha dito ng Mineski. So, kailangang isihan at pakiramdaman ng IPT anong pwede lang maging sagot. Right now, I would say mid lane skirmishes, dun design yung composition dito ng Mineski. So, really rewarding for IPT to drag this down. Do take note, they have a first Infernal Drake. By luck, they could actually take themselves another Infernal Drake.
You know what's very impressive here is that yung decisiveness ng Mineski, ito yung sobrang ganda sa Mineski ngayon because of having Celeste. So I feel like there's so much more, again, I'm gonna say the word again, decisive. Kasi, tingnan nyo, they're able to get inner turret sa bot side, not to mention transition into a dragon, transition pa into a Rift Herald. Sulit na sulit.
Oo, bago pa man makapag-isip ng sagot dito yung IPT. Alam na nila yung sunod, yung sunod na objective na pwedeng makuha. And right now, even the vision here is kind of, I wouldn't say scattered, but definitely leaning on the defensive here for IPT. Could be dangerous. To take note, there's a lot of methods of initiation here by Mineski. Kanina ang mode of initiation dito ng IPT is the teleport flank mula kay Suzaku. Pero dito, para sa Mineski, you got TG here, right? You even got EXO as well.
Tapos, ang interesting pa dito is that gaya nga ng sabi ko, with IPT, they have great protection, they have great front lines in the form of Suzaku and Shadow. So, yun nga, Nautilus and Braum. Problem here is that, because of this lead Mineski pulled off, not to mention some mga crucial,
yeah, they have to start the play, they have to start the fight. Manage to tag TG here. Flight, I think, very deep, not gonna be taking any direct hits. And of course, there's gonna be Crimson Rush to sustain him after the transfusion. Pero where is the damage? Here comes Exosen. Ladies and gentlemen, receives a lot of damage, but that should be rewarding as they manage to take in hate. Nabunggo sila dito after the flash of the destroyed tower. Gets tag given the acquired taste. Hindi nga kailangan makompleto yun, though he's gonna be Sangil pulled in. At nawala na rin sila dito. In the backline, that's gonna be Kaigu. Wala pa siyang rage bar. Kailangan niya nga ba? Yes, he will. But he will still walk away. He will still flash away. And that is 4 members of IPT getting removed. Make that 3. I think Kulit hindi yata napatay si Kulit. So, yeah. But the big deal here is the inner mid lane turret is destroyed. More so, the inhibitor with the Rift Herald. Kakakrak pa lang. Nako.
Sobrang sulit ng Rift Herald na to. And this is very unfortunate for IPT kasi sobrang aga ng pagkababa ng mid inhibitor nila. So that's gonna cause so many problems. Not because with the lead that MSK has right now, plus the fact that IPT is limited to their base because they consistently need to deal with the pressures of mid lane, it's just gonna allow a lot of versatility for MSK across the map. They have much more control in terms of vision, in terms of what objectives they could take or even steal from IPT side. So grabe talaga. I wouldn't be surprised if this eventually leads to MSK favoring for Game 3.
And I was discussing kanina na ang daming kits for initiation ang MSK. That is actually on noting the fact na limited ang initiation tool ng IPT dito. Sabi ko kanina, yung madalas nilang ginagamit na initiating tool was a teleport using the Nautilus to flank the backline. Sa halip ang pinang-initiate nila would be the Fate's Call, which is very telegraph.
Ah, yes.
Mandali mo predict. Ramdam, pag narinig mo pa lang yung tunog, alam mo nang something is up. Kahit wala ka namang pinofocus fire, hindi mo naman binabanatan yung support, tas narinig mo yung tunog ng Fate's Call, alam mo that they will go all in. That is the clear signal, and that's the problem. Yung initiate tool dito ng MSK, because it was safe, because pinasimula ng IPT yung laban, in kind of an awkward manner, ang dali nilang makakasagot. Yung initiating tool, nagiging counter-engage tool tuloy.
Yes.
Spirit Rush by Daari, even TG could chase down targets, even Ham is here with this explosive gas. Yun yung danger.
I feel like the tricky part is that the moment that IPT wasn't able to get the knock-up onto MSK during their initiate, I felt like that was the moment that they should have held back, because the more that they continued the chase, the more that it allowed MSK to go for the response, the counter. So very, very tricky for IPT indeed.
Not to mention, Celestial would just have all the feeds that he need because there's the assurance You know, a mini Guardian Angel in the form of the mouth of this champion.
Ang problematic pa dito is IPT light a little bit behind. I wouldn't say even a little, substantially behind. Only completed first item in comparison to Exocen, 3 items already completed for this Ari. So IPT losing a lot on a lot of substantial damage that they're mostly relying on hate and to an extent probably Kulit at this point for the damage output, which is not really that substantial in my opinion. So
there's even a ping now for the Baron. And the problem here is, does IPT have the vision for the Baron on this one? It's already set up. Matagal na. You know, they actually commanded Kaigo to go for this bot lane. The big problem here is hate is going to be delivered in this bot lane. All the more, you get a lot of free time to take this Baron. And yeah, I feel walang sagot dito ang IPT.
Definitely not.
They're on their way, but I'm not so sure if they can make it.
Not at all. I mean, like, advantage pa with the Mountain Drake for MSK. You know, it's definitely an easier take for them.
And andun na yung Grey Timer din para sa Infernal Drake. So there's another ping for that. My guess is it was Celestial pinging that one. Ang bilis ng rotation dito.
But yeah, again, I love that you brought that up. Sobrang bilis indeed ng rotation ng MSK dito. They know what objectives that they can get. And ang maganda pa dito is they calculate well enough na yung sakto siya in the sense na alam nilang matitake nila without suffering potential casualties or initiates from IPT. Because they're so ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's 11-3 onto our scoreboard. Earlier, it may seem good for IPT, but it feels like they're not getting the prolonged game that they want to, especially with this kind of composition, as MSK is accelerating things in their favor, winning multiple mid-game team fights and skirmishes.
Para sa akin, ang laking bagay na nawala sa IPT yung, because one of the reasons that I really loved IPT's draft during Game 2 is the triple protection. Again, but since they missed out on taking the Gragas, it lessens their protection, not to mention the fact that because Suzaku is somewhat behind 0-4 and 2, couldn't be the optimum lead shield, he's pretty much reduced to trying to just protect as opposed to initiating, because if he goes for the initiate, okay, let's go ahead and see what happens here.
Connected the drive to someone, pero very awkward follow-up there even.
I think the tricky part here kasi is that regardless if he gets the connection, isang devour lang ni TG. Parang sobrang denied na ba? Here we go.
Let's see what will be the answer. That's another tag on the TG. Explosive Cap is actually displaying Suzaku on this one. And Kulit may aim for the flank. That is the plan. Flash in and Kuku connected. But of course, nandun pa rin. Si TG managed to actually devour Celestial, allowing it to flash away. That is at the cost of TG dying. But what is happening in the top lane? There is Kaigo, there is Exocen. Kulang na lang ang isang Shin dito kay Exocen. And these towers will melt, you know, just as fast. And yeah, That's gonna be 2 Nexus turrets gone. That would force IPT to go back into their base with Exo Sense. Spirit Thrust gets used. There's a jump from Kaidu after the Gnar Rage. He gets tagged by the laser, but they are shooing away members of IPT, and they are taking this game 3 for a 2-1 for the game set on that game 4.
Whew. Man, oh man.
Ang bilis, no?
Grabe, this just goes back and forth between games. Game 1, MSK, IPT. Now, MSK, though, that was a very convincing win. Almost toppling over IPT, outclassed.
I thought it was gonna be a fast game. Yung kanina, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's the 33-minute game. I think this one is 27-minute. Pero yung for the most part, yung first 10 minutes or 12 minutes yata ng game, walang masyadong nangyayari, man. Then, bam! MSK, man.
And yun yung sinasabi ko yung sobrang decisiveness ng MSK, not giving IPT room to breathe to try to recuperate. And again, every time MSK gets something, hindi nakakapag-trade off ang IPT. So again, nag-build up ng si MSK to the point na once it transitions into the later parts, yung mid-game to late, hindi wala nang masagot si IPT in a sense because everybody that's supposed to be doing their job is so behind. Look, across the board, 0-5 for Suzaku, 0-4 for Light. Si Hate lang talaga yung naging pag-asa in terms of damage output.
Yeah. And to answer that, what's very noticeable about MSK here is that pag-usapang late game na, they really know how to split.
Oh yeah.
Been doing that on that game 1. Game 2 is a very different story, okay? But with that Corki removed from Light, it was very rewarding, you know, for MSK. Now, that is a big question. Kung ayun ba yung Kryptonite ng IPT? Question na naman to mula dun sa game 1. Anong sagot ng IPT dito? Because siguro yung start ng game git-gitan, mga kaibigan, pero yung last 15 minutes ng game natin, that is a clear statement na naman of MSK's dominance. So it's like another question na naman, same as with game 1, ano nga isasagot dito ng IPT? They managed to answer with a Corki in that game 2.
Yes.
Now with the Corki ban, what will be the answer on the game 4? Seeing the results of this game 3, 2-1 na po sa ating scoreboard. Okay? MSK is just 1 game away in going to Rampage 2017. Well, they can buy tickets naman, pero you know, nung mag-champion sila, hindi, lahat ng PGS teams actually libre sa Rampage. And ladies and gentlemen, kami po yung naging shoutcasters for this game. I am Shinbu with the 1-4 and I, my partner of course, Coach Arctic at your service. This is Game 3 concluded for the best of 5 series in the semifinals between MSK versus Imperium Pro Team. We still have our Game 4, so just stay right there and we'll be right back. Yes, of course, the Fates call tags actually Shadow here. This might be his second death. Hindi activate yung thick skin dito, knowing that it's too late. There's also the ultimate casted on to Celestial. He will be able to flash away after the ultimate mula kay Kaidu, but not enough. There's the Rents to strip him to shreds. And here comes Exo Sen. Also along with the explosive cast, deleting members of IPT 1 by 1. At tatlo agad yung nawala dito. It's still a 2v3. And Light and Gulit would be aiming to get a revenge kill. In the end, it's a 3-4-2 exchange. Burn on Suzaku. Is this gonna be rewarding? Hindi. Natayuan ni Suzaku. Okay, yung trap. I thought he won't. Rather on top after the dredge line on this one. Quite awkward here for IPT. Light after the transfusion is gonna be pulling out. And he did manage to go up. Instead to start the fight. Managed to tag EG here. Light, I think, very not gonna be taking any dirt hits, and of course there's gonna be Crimson Crush to sustain him after the transfusion. Pero where is the damage? Here comes Exocet, ladies and gentlemen. Receives a lot of damage, but that should be rewarding as they manage to take in hate. Nabunggo sila dito after the flash of the destroyed tower. Gets tagged here with the acquired taste. Hindi nga kailangan makompleto yun, though he's gonna be Sangil pulled in. At nawala na rin sila dito. In the backline, that's gonna be Kaigu. Wala pa siyang rage bar. Kailangan niya nga ba? Yes, he will. But he will still walk away. He will still flash away. And that is...
Here we go.
Let's see what will be the answer. That's another tag on the TG. Explosive Cap is actually displayed Suzaku on this one. And Kulit may aim for the flag. That is the flag. Flash in and Kuku connected. But of course, nadung pa rin. Si TG managed to actually devour Celestial, allowing it to flash away. That is at the cost of TG dying. But what is happening in the top lane? There is Kaigu, there is Exocen. Kulang na lang ang isang Shin dito kay Exocen. And these towers will melt, you know, just as fast. And yeah, that's gonna be 2 Nexus turrets gone. That would force IPT to go back into their base with Exocen. Spirit Thrust gets used. There's a jump from Kaigu after the Gnar Rage. He gets tagged by the laser, but they are shooing away members of IPT, and they are taking this game 3 for a 2-1 for the game set on that game 4. Woo!